If you were kidnapped and forced to play in a brutal game show with your friends where one wrong move will drown you in debt, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the debt games in Tomodachi Game. This kid is going to outsmart everyone. Yuichi here wakes up, confused to find himself inside a blank white room with his classmates. There are no exits or doors anywhere, and none of them know how they got here. But that's when a wall suddenly opens up. Looking through the opening, everyone is shocked to see a giant mascot walk into the room, and it welcomes them to the friend game. It explains that they've all been kidnapped and are now 20 million yen in debt, which will be divided between the 5 of them. But if they pass 3 simple challenges, then their debt will be erased. Furious, Yuichi demands to know how this has happened, and the mascot explains that someone in this room has paid a 2 million yen entry fee to be here and forced their friends to help them pay off their debt. This takes them all by surprise, but the boy remembers that the same amount of cash was recently stolen from their classroom earlier that day. Someone in this room is a traitor, trapping them all into losing $30,000 each, and uncertain who to trust. They all listen as the mascot breaks down the rules. If they decide to drop out, the traitor must pay his debt in full, but if they all participate, the debt will be split equally between them. Each person will owe 4 million yen, but if they lose, they'll have to pay it back by any means necessary. With that, the mascot leaves the room so the students can figure out what to do. And this girl Shiho argues they shouldn't blame the person who applied for the game. She suggests they must have had a good reason to bring them all into the tournament, and the others agree to help their friend. Yuichi wants to know who did this, but that's when the mascot reappears and tries to trigger the group, suggesting that the boy would rather find someone to blame than to help a friend in need. Furious, the student insists he'd do anything for his friends, and with everyone agreeing to participate, the mascot announces the tournament will officially begin. They're all about to play 3 terrifying games that will put their friendship to the test and are a lot more dangerous than they seem. Okay, this is intense. All of these students have just been kidnapped and are forced to play children's games in order to pay off the debt of someone in this room. This is like if Squid Game went through a series of budget cuts and had to make players gamble for their own money. Winning here means you keep what you already have, and it's not a good deal. But the good news is that at least they have much better uniforms, because anytime 5 of these guys are standing together in a group, they immediately look like a J-pop band. What's interesting is before they started playing, they were given a choice whether or not to help their friend, and surprisingly, they all said yes. But the strange thing is, these guys barely flinched at the idea of being stuck with someone else's debt. It means they must be pretty good friends. But if they were thinking this through, they'd realize that there's one important detail here that we just can't ignore. First of all, these kids are high school students, and most of them probably don't have jobs yet, because almost every school in Japan has regulations that prohibit students from working while they're in school. So if they lose, they'll be $30,000 in debt with no way to pay it off. Now, this is a really important point, because $147,000 is an insane amount of money for a high school student to owe. It's really suspicious. But the answer to this mystery is right in front of them, because now that we know this game exists and that it has no problem kidnapping high school students to play it, this means the most likely reason they're in that much debt is because they played this game before and lost. This is terrifying, because whoever the traitor is knows more about this game than we do, and since they haven't shared that information with anyone yet, then they're clearly trying to use it as an advantage against us to win the game alone. That's why if it were me, the smartest strategy here is to figure out who the traitor is as soon as possible, so we can study their game strategies and prevent them from winning. The group is led into an abandoned classroom where they find a table with a giant coin laying on top of a board. Gathering around, the mascot explains that they will be playing a game of Kokuri-san where they will have to move the coin as a group to answer 5 yes or no questions. But if it's not unanimous, then the answer with the fused votes will be counted as the final decision. Only one right answer is needed for each of them to win 400,000 yen, but if the students show each other their debt counters or talk at any point, then their debt will be doubled. It's terrifying, but the blonde boy Makoto opens the first envelope, asking if Mount Fuji is the highest mountain in Japan. They all know the answer is yes, and the students try to push the coin to answer, but they're shocked to see it moving to the wrong side. Surprised, this girl's about to speak, but the other boys stop her before she breaks the rules. Yuichi here realizes that the answer is too easy to get wrong, and it means that someone might have answered no on purpose. This girl Yutori is the next to read out the question, and asks if 1 plus 1 equals 2. There's no way they can get this one incorrectly, but when they try to answer, the coin moves moves to the wrong side. With 2 simple questions wrong, Yuichi here is certain there's a traitor among them, but can't figure out who it is. That's when the nerd Tenji goes next, and he asks if Nihon is called Japan in the English language. Everyone knows that the right answer is yes, but just like before, they end up answering incorrectly, and Yuichi begins to panic, realizing that someone is sabotaging the group. Suddenly, the mascot picks him as the next reader, and when he opens up the envelope, he discovers something unexpected. The card tells him to make up a question, but if they answer no, his own debt will be halved. That's when he realizes that everyone else's cards must have offered the same deal, and they intentionally answered wrong to reduce their debt. Deciding he won't betray them, Yuichi asks the question, are there 7 days in a week, and tries to answer yes, but is horrified to see the coin move to the wrong side. They've already answered 4 questions incorrectly, and there's only one last chance for them to win. According to the rules, if they lose, then the person with the highest debt will receive everyone else's, and that means the traitor might be trying to force all of their debt onto one person. Okay, this is insane. A creepy mascot just took us through a magical portal and forced us to answer first grade questions by moving a giant coin. These kids are acting like it's completely normal, but if this was happening to me, I definitely think I was tripping on acid. Now, the rules said that if anyone chooses no when the others choose yes, then the coin will move in that direction. This is why they're one wrong answer from losing the game, but there's one detail you might have missed. If you look at this statue here, you can see that it will raise its hands if the decision is unanimous, but if it stays in the ground, then it means one of the players has chosen a different answer. What's scary is that this means it knows what every player is thinking, and since this Kokuri-san game is the Japanese equivalent of a Ouija board, it's safe to assume this is clearly supernatural. If we're about to go into debt to a supernatural entity who has nothing better to do than haunt us forever to get its money back, then this situation is a lot more terrifying than it looks. Now, these questions are so easy to answer that since we're getting them wrong, someone must be working against the group. The problem is, we don't know if it's always the same person, or if each player has their own incentive to choose the wrong answer. When the blonde boy read the card, his first reaction was to widen his eyes in shock before he looked at the bottom and started smiling. This sudden change of expression is highly suspicious, and it's even more apparent after everyone sees the coin move to the wrong side of the board because he stares at Yuichi looking guilty. His body language demonstrates that he's hiding something, and whatever he's keeping secret must have had to do with what was written on his card. That's why if it were me, I would just reach across the table and take the card for him to read it myself. The rules only said that a specific person could read it out loud, but never mentioned if someone would be punished if anyone else read it silently to themselves. We might be able to take advantage of this small loophole, and it's something we should keep doing in every single game whenever there's an opportunity. Nervous, the girl takes her turn and asks the group if they will continue being friends. The players put their fingers on the coin, ready to end the game, but Yuichi suddenly has a brilliant idea and speaks out, breaking the no talking rule. The boy scolds his classmates for being selfish, before lying that his card has just changed the rules. He explains that now if they lose, the person with the lowest debt will have to pay for everyone else, and dares them to speak up. The others stay silent, unsure if he's telling the truth, and that's when the boy admits that he was joking, reminding them this is a test of their friendship. They all put their fingers on the coin, but finally manage to answer the question correctly. Yuichi is now 3.6 million yen in debt, but as the group starts to leave, the boy confronts them, asking how much they still owe. They tell him they each have 3.6 million, but someone isn't telling the truth. The mascot leads the others out as the boy stays behind, pretending to tie his shoelace, but when the coast is clear, he checks the other question cards. To his surprise, none of the others have a deal to reduce their debt, but when he checks his own card again, he finds the text is disappearing. That means they each might have been given the same offer, but he still has no way to prove who the traitor is. Joining the group, the mascot tells them all to put on a sleeping mask so they can go home, but makes it clear they still have to complete 2 more challenges and can't tell anyone about the game. Putting on the masks, they suddenly black out and wake up to find themselves outside of their school. With the stakes getting higher, Yuichi here is determined to find out who the traitor is, and the next game is the perfect opportunity to expose them. Okay, if it wasn't for Yuichi's brilliant strategy, all of these students would be starting OnlyFans pages to pay off their debts. He realized the other players got the same deal on their cards and chose to reduce their debt by answering incorrectly. Then, he pretended his card said there was a rule change, lying that the person with the lowest debt would have to take everyone else's if they lose. That's why he spoke out, because they all knew it doubled his debt, and he would only be crazy enough to do that if what he was saying is true. This means by answering incorrectly again, the group would lose, and the traitor would be stuck with all the debt by themselves. This genius strategy convinced the traitor to choose the right answer with the rest of the group, and it won them the game. Now, as smart as that was, there was still no guarantee that it would work, because it depends on how well you're able to convince the others that you're telling the truth, and that's why if it were me, I would definitely have a backup plan for the worst case scenario. The most important rule here is that if we get all the questions wrong, the person with the highest debt will take on everyone else's. So if it started to look like nobody believed us, then the best insurance policy is to force someone else into breaking the no talking rule. That's why I would seriously consider harassing another player and stomping on their feet, because the combination of surprise and pain might make them say something without thinking, and it would be enough to give them the highest debt. This guarantees that if we get the 5th question wrong and lose the game, 4 out of 5 players won't owe anything and get to walk away scot-free. Now, having said that, there are 2 reasons why this is a risky move. The first is that the other player might stay quiet and try to use the same strategy on you, and the second is that there are still 2 more challenges to go. If we do win, then an act of aggression like this is only going to give our friends more reasons to screw us over in the future, and that's why I would only do it if there were no good options left. The following day, the students meet up in class, and the girl Yutori shows them a strange envelope with a letter inside warning them that tonight they'll be taken to the 2nd round of the friend game. The next morning, they suddenly wake up and realize they're on the roof of their school. The mascot greets them and introduces the next game, Mouth Sugoroku, when suddenly a holographic board stretches across the floor with a perimeter forming around the building. The goal is to reach the end, but the only way to get ahead is to reveal their friends' secrets in each round. But if the players are caught lying, that person will move to the front. Lastly, whoever doesn't reach the end gets to drop out and transfer their debts to the winner of the game. With the rules explained, Shiho is the first to walk inside the booth, and the door locks behind her. The girl has 3 minutes to write down a secret, and after she's done, she walks out so the others can take their turns. After all the papers are collected, the mascot announces the results and reveals that every student left their paper blank. That means they all move a single square, but suddenly a message pops up telling them they've been penalized 100,000 yen from their prize money. The students have been tricked, and the mascot explains that if they continue cooperating like this, they could lose as much as 6 million yen. The group is committed to trusting each other and tries the same strategy again, but their prize decreases by 500,000 yen. It's clear the game designers are trying to get them to betray each other, and it means this game is about to get brutal. After they submit their papers for the next round, the mascot announces that one person has written down a secret, revealing that Chiho likes Yuichi and that she used to date the nerd. According to the rules, the viewers will vote on which secret is unforgivable, and the player with the most amount of votes will make it furthest ahead. The players are shocked, and with only one secret to share, the viewers decide that Chiho's piece should be moved 4 spaces ahead of all the others. Suddenly, the girl gets a message announcing that 500,000 yen has been deducted from her prize, while the others aren't punished. Okay, this is getting dangerous. They've already started betraying their friends, and you might think it was an innocent secret to share, but it's guaranteed to escalate. Eventually, they'll want to retaliate and feel pressured to weaponize the most horrifying secrets about each other in order to prevent themselves from winning. This could get so brutal that we might even find out one of them pooped the bed, but there's one detail here that can help us hack this game. Now, according to the mascot, the goal is to write down secrets about your friends, and the more you reveal, the closer they get to the finish line. The first secret was about Shiho, and the audience voted, deciding that she should move 5 tiles ahead. But since movement is based on rank, the 4 other players were all tied for 5th place, which is why they only moved 1 tile. Now, this whole dynamic means that the audience is a huge factor in this game, because the more shocking the secret, the higher the player will be ranked, and the more spaces ahead they might decide to move someone. This is great news for whoever the traitor is, because they can anonymously share everyone's darkest secrets and manipulate the audience to punish someone, forcing them to win and be stuck with all of the debt as a result. It's a brutal strategy, but if we're being clever, you'll notice that this mascot used very specific vocabulary when explaining the rules, and we can actually turn it against him to break the game. Now, the definition of a secret is information that was told in private and is not public knowledge. That's why if it were me, I would try to gain an advantage here and start sharing all of my secrets out loud before the next round so that they can't be used against me. It would be embarrassing as hell, but by doing this, the other players can't write anything about me on their papers because they would no longer be secrets. This makes it a lot more difficult to come up with things to reveal about me, and they'll choose other players to target instead, making it a lot more likely that I get freed of my debt. It's a strategy with a heavy personal cost, but if I had to choose between paying to be embarrassed or just embarrassing myself, then it's a no-brainer. The blonde boy confronts the nerd, jealous that he dated his high school crush, but Yuichi interrupts, arguing that it's no time to focus on their personal drama. Gathering the students together, he explains that this game has one fatal flaw. So far, they've only gone further into debt, but the mascot here might not be telling them everything. A game that's unfair is also boring to watch, and since this has an audience, Yuichi realized that there might also be squares that reduce their debt as well. This game has always been about friendship, and if they continue trusting each other, they might be able to get back the money they just lost. The students all agree, and Yuichi heads inside the room to take his turn, but his friends have no idea he's got a plan to find the traitor. After they all make their decisions, the mascot announces the results. It's announced that two people have written down secrets. The first one is that Shiho wears men's boxers, and the second is that Tenji lied about his age. The players are shocked, and the audience decides how many tiles to move each player, but suddenly Shiho's piece lands on a special square. She can now choose to expose the secret of one player, and it might be enough to give them the lead. Wanting to protect his friends, the blonde boy volunteers, and the girl decides to expose his secret. That's when the mascot reveals the boy's father was caught up in several scandals, and ashamed, the kid falls to the ground. Shiho tries to comfort him, but the nerd pulls her away, arguing that they can't trust him. He accuses the blonde of being the traitor who brought them here, and 90% of the audience agrees, moving him forward 9 spaces. By the 19th round, there are only 5 spaces left to end the game. That's when the mascot announces that 2 secrets have been written this round. One reveals that the girl was secretly receiving money from a man, while the other says that the blonde boy is a murderer. He insists that this is a lie, begging them to check his criminal record, but the mascot decides to let the viewers judge him. When the results come in, 99% of the viewers think Makoto is guilty, and there's nothing he can do to save himself from their judgment. His pieces move forward 5 spaces, while Shiho moves 4. But Yuichi here has one more trick up his sleeve. Okay, this is intense. The blonde boy has just been accused of murder, and now all his friends won't go near him. But there's one thing they're not considering. If he's really this dangerous, then it's a lot smarter to stay on his good side, because otherwise, this debt game might quickly turn into a death game. It just so happens that I killed all of my friends in the last death game I played, and I wouldn't want to go down that road again until it's absolutely necessary. Now, we just found out that there are special squares on the board, and that's why Makoto was made to go 9 tiles ahead instead of 5. This is actually a pretty important detail, because when they played as a team by moving 1 space at a time, they thought they were being punished. This special square proves that not all tiles add to your debt, and if they had committed to that strategy, it might have balanced itself out. The good news is, if we really wanted to play as friends and cooperate with each other, there's still another way to go about this. If it were me, I would call for a private huddle between the group of friends and explain that we should only write lies about one person, making them the scapegoat. The lies should always be about things that the game can't verify, and this way, we can push one player close to the finish line without revealing any true secrets. Then, we all tell a fake secret about each other, and when they're revealed, we admit together that all 5 players lied. According to the rules, this will launch us ahead of the player in the lead, and the best part is, there's no debt added by using this method. We can literally skip across the entire board, placing us only a few squares away from the finish line. Now, this strategy is incredibly dangerous, because this would be the perfect opportunity for the traitor to finally screw us over. All he would need to do is tell a true secret when everyone else wrote a fake one, and it means he can push one person over the edge and take everyone's debt with them. That's why on the final square, I would tell everyone to write nothing and make sure I'm the last player to go into the booth. Now, if you look at this box that's holding the secrets, you can tell it's made out of very cheap material. That means we can force it open to remove everyone else's submissions and replace them with our own, revealing a true secret for each player, including myself. With this strategy, even if the traitor tries to screw us over, we will all move across the finish line together because I've shared a secret for everyone. I would also make sure that the player behind us has the highest ranked secret so that all 5 players can cross together. Shiho's 1 tile away from ending the game, but Yuichi here has one more trick up his sleeve. Facing the others, he reminds them if a person is caught writing a fake secret, they'll be punished and moved 1 space ahead of the player closest to the goal. Knowing this, he suggests they all write on the paper for the next round, saying I was the one who entered us into the game. That way, they'll all be moved to the finish line, forcing the traitor to reveal his identity. The friends will have to keep playing, but at least they can face the final challenge together, knowing that they're all trustworthy and have a chance to win. The friends all agree to the plan, and the nerd goes first, but this was his biggest mistake. When the mascot announced announces the results of the final round, it reveals that only one person wrote a secret, exposing that the nerd applied to the friend game, and that means he is the traitor. Shocked, Tenji questions why the others didn't write anything down, but all of them stay silent. He drops to his knees begging for forgiveness and admits that almost every secret written was by him, but wants to know how they figured it out. That's when Yuichi reveals that in round 3, he secretly took extra paper out of the booth so he could pass instructions to Shiho, asking her to reveal a specific secret. When she followed his orders, he knew she could be trusted. He then gave similar instructions to the other girl and told her to reveal that Shiho wore men's boxers, proving her loyalty to their friends. Yuichi realized it wasn't Makoto because his darkest secret had been exposed, and that left only Tenji as the traitor. In the final round, he told the others not to write anything while the nerd was in the booth, and knew they would trust his word. Annoyed, the mascot insists they continue to play, but Yuichi approaches to whisper something in its ear, and it's going to change everything. Suddenly, he raises his hand and shoots out a light, announcing that the game has ended with Yuichi as the winner. The others are confused, but the kid explains that he wrote a lie that the blonde boy killed someone. The truth is that he killed someone in the past, and as punishment, he was placed at the front of the line, making him win by default. He promises the group to stop this game from continuing, and with that, a portal to the third round opens. He walks forwards, but suddenly Tenji here stands up, insisting to join him. The boy admits that he lied about having feelings for Shiho, and announces that the person he actually likes is Yuichi. To prove it, he approaches the boy and kisses him in front of everyone. The players are speechless, but the mascot accepts he's telling the truth, and allows both students to walk through the portal, leaving the others behind. Okay, that was not what I expected. Not only did Tenji here admit that he was the traitor, but now he's trying to kiss his way out of a lie so that he can keep playing. Soon we're going to find out that he's actually tricking the mascot just to help his friend, and if that's not committing to the cause, then I don't know what is. Now, all things considered, Yuichi managed to win the game, but it was a very risky strategy. He secretly told the others to write nothing on their papers, and it forced the traitor to reveal his own secret. This is a 200 IQ play, but there's one huge problem here. The actual result of this strategy is that the audience will make the traitor move 5 spaces, and everyone else will have to move 1 space. But this means that Shiho will win the game alone. The only reason this didn't happen was because the game was delayed waiting for him to explain his master plan. Then, he confessed that he lied before the audience got a chance to vote, and it helped him win the game. All it would have taken for this plan to fail would be for the mascot to ask the audience to rank all the players, and Shiho would be forced to move 1 square. It's incredibly short-sighted, and even the mascot complained that they haven't let the audience vote yet, but that brings me to my next point. For something that's televised with so much money at stake, this mascot has done a horrible job at refereeing the game. Earlier, they explained that if you get caught lying, you'll be punished, but the game makers did nothing to figure out if any of these secrets were true. When Makoto was accused of being a murderer, it's such a ridiculous idea that they should have investigated this claim. Instead, the mascot blindly accepted the answer and kept playing, which undermines the rules. If all the players realize the most ridiculous statements will be accepted, then it's no longer competitive and completely breaks the game. Now, Yuichi revealed that he wrote the secret about Makoto being a murderer and confessed that it was a lie, which put him in the lead and helped him win the game. What's strange is that nobody else thought to use the same strategy. There's no reason why every single player didn't pick one of their own secrets, but pretend that they lied about it as well. That way they could join Yuichi at the finish line and all move on together to play the third game, because the more players they have, the better chances there are of winning the game. Later, they wake up in the middle of the forest with no idea how they got here. The nerd reassures Yuichi that he doesn't have any special feelings for him, and only lied so he could join him in the final round. But there's something else he needs to know. Years ago, he entered a previous friend game tournament, but he lost and wants to help him take down the game makers. That's when they're interrupted by a group of high school students, and they realize it's another team competing in the third challenge. They're all lost, but Yuichi realizes there's a signpost, and the group follows the trail until they reach a cabin in the woods. Inside, they find the mascot waiting for them, and it reveals that the final game is a competitive match of friendship hide and seek. But they don't realize that this is the most intense game of them all. The mascot explains that each team will have to pick one person to hide, while the rest seek the enemy hider. The first group to find that person wins, but there are 2 things they're not allowed to do. Under no circumstances can they attack their opponents, and the hider must stay in their hiding spot for the entire game. The seekers can switch teams as long as they get approval from the others, while the hiders can press this button to forfeit. If these rules are broken, that team will be disqualified and their debt will be doubled. To make sure they all stay alive, the players have been given cell phones to call their teammates if they need help, but it'll be up to the Seekers to deliver food to their friend. It's clear that the boys are at a disadvantage, so the mascot offers to add another member onto their team. With no better option, Yuichi agrees, and this girl Maria walks into the cabin. Going outside, Tenji insists he should be the hider since Yuichi is faster than him and they can't trust the girl yet. As they're walking through the woods, Yuichi asks the nerd about his previous friend game, and he explains that his friends betrayed him, leaving him with the 20 million yen in debt. Since then, he's been dedicated to getting revenge and won't stop until he destroys the game. That's when the boys arrive at this cave and take a look inside. Both of them agree it's the perfect place for someone to hide, but Yuichi makes it clear that he won't let him down and has a plan to win it all. Over the next 2 days, he hangs out at the cabin and taunts the other group, making it clear he knows their strategy. They're taking shifts and waiting until Yuichi's team goes to deliver food to his friend so that they can follow him, but it's not going to work. The next morning, the boy suddenly tells the mascot he wants to switch teams, insisting that he doesn't trust his friend. It takes everyone by surprise, and this kid K explains he has to check with their team captain to get his approval. After calling him, the boy reveals they're worried he might leak the location of their hider to the girl and will only accept his transfer if they both switch. Pretending to be annoyed, Yuichi marches upstairs and they have no idea they're walking right into his plans. Okay, this kid is eating all of the food like it's a mukbang video, while his friend has been starving in a cave for 2 days. This is not easy, but unlike the other games, there are actually 2 different victory conditions. The first is if the enemy hider is found, and the second is if they decide to forfeit by activating this device. Since our team has fewer players, our opponents will have a much easier time finding the nerd's hiding spot because they can cover more ground and split up to follow us while delivering food to him. We don't have a lot of options here, and that's why if the odds are already against us, I would seriously think about abandoning my friend and switching sides. According to the rules, if you get permission to switch teams and they win, then all of your debt is put onto the person you betrayed. We just found out this guy has been using us to help him pay off his own debt, so teaching him a valuable lesson in personal responsibility might just be the right thing to do. Now, if we decide to stay loyal, then we're going to have to figure out how to hack the game if we want a chance at winning. First, we need to make sure that the nerd is hiding in the best possible location. They chose this giant cave, which is smart because since he's not allowed to leave, this place protects him from the weather and keeps him cool during the day. The problem is that a cave this large is just too easy to find, which is why I would be looking for a much smaller location to avoid being found. Hiding in a cave is such an obvious solution that we can predict that the hider from the other team would be following the same strategy. This is actually great news, because it means we won't have to check the hundreds of acres of forest if we know the most likely place he's hiding in. That's why if it were me, when it's time to choose a hiding place, I would have one team member stay behind and scout the perimeter of the cabin. Then, when the opponents return, we can observe which direction they're walking back from, and this gives us a cardinal direction to start searching for more caves. For that same reason, I would make sure that when we return, we arrive from the opposite direction so we aren't giving away our hider's position. Now, it's important to point out that there's no time limit in this game. Tenji here could be waiting for a really long time before anyone wins, and since the other team has more players than we do, they can easily follow us, making it harder to deliver food to him without revealing his location. If the nerd starts dying from hunger or dehydration, he'll have to forfeit, and that's why if it were me, I would make sure to stock up on supplies before anybody else. The mascot never said it was against the rules to give our hider food before the game begins, and between the 2 of them, they could have easily brought a sleeping bag, food, and water without anyone knowing. There are no penalties for misusing items from the cabin, and it's the perfect loophole to take advantage of. Later that day, the girl suddenly excuses herself to go to the bathroom. Moments later, Yuichi gets a phone call from the girl, and that's when he tells her that she should bring food to Tenji right now. The students are taken by surprise, and the boy immediately runs for the woods. They start to chase after him, but the girl sprints in the opposite direction, forcing the kids to split up. The teammates meet up and continue through the forest when he suddenly pushes the girl off of the hill. They never covered this part of the plan, and she realizes she'll fall to her death when one of the opponents catches her at the last second, letting Yuichi escape. He'll finally be able to deliver food to his friend, but that's when he finds his way blocked by another member of the enemy team. The geek reveals that he's been watching the whole time and takes the kid back to the cabin, where they find the players have almost started fighting. The mascot makes it clear that violence between teammates is not against the rules, and Yuichi decides to take advantage of this. He grabs the girl by the hair and throws her to the floor as one of the boys confronts him. Wanting to protect the girl, he requests that he be transferred to Yuichi's team, and the mascot approves the switch. The traitor is finally allowed to hit him, and and throws a punch at the kid but gets pinned to the floor. It's clear that he can't be trusted and needs to be kept under control. That night, the traitor is tied to a tree, and the girl apologizes for what happened when Yuichi interrupts them to ask about the captain's location. The guy tells him the only person on his old team who knows that information is Kei, and that's when Yuichi realizes he's been tricked and calls the boy, accusing him of being the real leader, but insists he won't win. Suddenly, the kid reveals that sending the traitor to the other team was a trap, and the boy panics, understanding his strategy. It's against the rules to attack their opponents, and if the traitor attacks his old teammates, their side immediately loses. The next morning, the kid is exhausted when he suddenly gets a call on his phone. It's Maria, and she tells him that the enemy leader isn't here, so she has the perfect opportunity to send Tenji some food. It's been 4 days since the nerd has eaten, and he'll starve to death if she doesn't help him. With no better option, he tells her where his friend's hiding, and this was his biggest mistake. The girl writes the instructions down on a notebook, but that's when she turns to ask Kei if she can finally join his team. Outside, the mascot announces that the girl has switched sides, and Yuichi here breaks down in frustration. He shouldn't have trusted her, and Maria leaves to go searching for Tenji, but as soon as they're out of earshot, he decides to finally put his real plan into motion. Approaching the traitor, he calls the hider and demands he give up, or else he'll make his friends suffer. The guy can't believe what he's hearing, as the kid begins breaking his teammates' fingers and enjoying every second of it. Horrified, the captain promises to give up to spare his friend. Meanwhile, Tenji wakes up in his hiding spot and notices his phone is vibrating. Answering the call, he hears the enemy leader Kei talking on the other end, but when he turns around, the nerd finds he's been standing right behind him. He realizes he's just lost the game, but it's not going to turn out the way they expect it. Okay, this kid here caught Tenji in the middle of his me time, and that means the fun is over. As far as he knows, his team just lost the game, but Yuichi has a secret plan he hasn't told anyone, and there's a very good reason for that. As we saw earlier, this girl called him on the phone to ask for the location of the nerd so she could give him food, but it was obvious she had every intention of screwing him over. First of all, there's no reason the boy would agree to her sending the food without him, because even when they tried together, they got caught. Doing this alone would lose them the game, and that's why it's a dead giveaway that she's trying to betray her team. Now, it's also clear that Yuichi already knows she's betraying him because he actually agreed to such a terrible plan. Realizing this would have given her enough reason to be suspicious of the information he's providing and decide to follow him instead of looking for the nerd. This is exactly why anything we tell our teammates is a risk, because if they start getting nervous and switch sides, then everything they know will be shared with your opponents, making it much harder for you to outsmart them. The best thing to do is keep your teammates in the dark as much as possible, and only reveal information on a need-to-know basis so they can't use it against you. Now, trying to get someone to fight you is just about the best idea so far. As simple as it seems, one single punch could lose them the game, and with a price this high for one emotional reaction, I would have someone trying to pick a fight as a full-time job. Since we just gained a new teammate, I would put him to work picking fights instead of tying him to this tree, because in a game with so few advantages, this is a huge waste of resources. Now, you might think that if we cut the traitor loose, he's going to betray us, but it's important to realize the rules say once you change teams, you can't change back. Losing means he goes into debt just like the rest of us, so this kid has every incentive to make sure we win. That's why instead of tying up the traitor, I would try to deliver food to the nerd again, but head to the cave with all three of us. This will give us a better chance of success without giving away our friend's location, and if the nerd has enough food, we have more time to find the other hider to win the game. Later, the players all gather in the cabin, and the mascot announces that for the final game, Yuichi's team are the winners. Confused, Kei demands to know what is going on, and the mascot reveals that his hider pressed the give up button before they found the nerd. This makes the hider furious that Yuichi would use dirty tricks, and he punches him in the face. That's when the traitor holds him back, and the boy realizes that his friend's fingers aren't injured. Yuichi had broken his own fingers to trick his opponent into surrendering, and with the round over, the kid has his hand bandaged when he suddenly asks the girl to bring him scissors. She walks off to get them, but that was her biggest mistake. The others realize too late that he's taken Maria hostage and reveals that she's one of the people running the friend game. Throwing her nameplate to the ground, they see that the dead counter is at 0, and he tells them it's been like that from the beginning of the game. Yuichi demands the mascot show him where the game designers are hiding, and it snaps its fingers, opening a portal to a white room. Walking into the room, the boys follow the mascot inside, and that's when they hear someone behind them. It's the other team's leader, Kei, and he promises to help them expose the friend game. Another doorway opens, so the students enter a surveillance room where they find a man waiting for them. He's one of the supervisors overseeing this tournament and congratulates them for being the first players he's met in person. The others walk over to a computer to steal all of their files, while the man approaches the boy, revealing it's his own fault that his foster mother died. Yuichi had stolen enough money to pay for her surgery, but kept it all to himself until she passed away. Feeling guilty, the kid breaks down on what he's done, but Tenji insists that his friend is a good person and reaches out a hand to take him out of here. The next morning, they arrive at the school when their friend Yutori calls out to them. She explains that since the blonde boy Makoto couldn't cover the 2 million yen that was stolen, their classmates bullied him so badly that he stopped coming to school. To make matters worse, Shiho has also gone missing, and the last time the girl saw her, she was taking money from the blonde boy. Wanting answers, the group decides to visit the kid, but when they ask him what's going on, he insists there's nothing to worry about. Congratulating them for beating the last game, he tells them to leave, but Yuichi points out they never told him they won the third challenge. Nervous, he explains he heard it from Shiho and walks off, but his friend doesn't believe him. He throws the blonde boy to the ground and tells the others to search the house for any sign of the missing girl. Heading upstairs, Tenji spots a metal door that's been left open and tells the others what he's found, but when he runs inside, he finds Shiho tied up on a couch. That's when Yuichi brings in the blonde boy and asks her what is going on. She explains that Makoto is a viewer of the friend game and gambled money on all the players. The others can't believe what they're hearing, but that's when the blonde boy reveals one last secret. He convinced Tenchi's old friends to join the first tournament and got them to abandon him with a 20 million yen debt. With this one trick, Makoto ruined the nerd's life, and that led to them all being forced to play in a debt game. Suddenly, the game's supervisors walk into the room and reveal they're going to take the blonde boy prisoner, telling them his father had just died, passing on a 500 million yen debt. Since the kid can't pay it off, he must play the adult's friend game, and it's going to be harder than anything he's ever faced before. They're about to take him away when Yuichi announces that he wants to join in. The others can't believe it, but willing to do anything to save their friend, they all decide to play as well. The supervisor accepts their decision, inviting them to follow, and Yuichi realizes he's learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes it's not about the journey, but the friends you've conned along the way.
But what do you think? How would you beat Tomodachi Game? Let me know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos like this. Until next time, have a damn good day.